there. Good evening. Nice to see you. Welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors and journalists, all different people who put stuff out that you need to know about. And they kind of give us the inside word on some of the things that they're doing. And then in our second segment, we got something real special by one of the Bronx's legendary organizations. And they're having a big event that we want to help them promote because they're so good to the rest of us all through the year. Nonetheless, let's get started. It is my buddy Jonathan Custodio, who is the Bronx reporter for the City. Nice to see you again, Jonathan.
Nice to see you again. Thanks for having me.
So you wrote a story about something I had heard about and was a little bit distressed about, my feelings about our community centers. The Madison Boys and Girls Club on Hoe Avenue is planning to shut down. It has served as a safe haven for generations of South Bronx residents and set the stage for the birth of hip hop, et cetera, et cetera. What the heck are the last thing we need in the Bronx is closing down community centers. What the heck is going on over there?
Yeah, like you said, people are very distraught about potential closure of community center. Well, so it started, because the Madison Boys and Girls Club has multiple clubhouses around the city. One of them we're talking about is the Jolie Smiley Clubhouse, which is located just a few blocks away from Crotona Park. And the Boys and Girls Club agreed to pay about $22 million to a trust covering 149 people who sued under the New York Child Victims Act, alleging they'd been abused by a pediatric endocrinologist who volunteered there from the 50s through the 1980s.
But not at that clubhouse.
Right, not at that particular clubhouse.
Yeah, so he did this and they got sued. And listen, the Justice Department does what it does. So, yes, keep going.
Right. Important to note, not at this clubhouse. And so that has essentially crippled the Madison Boys and Girls Club financially to the point where they, that was what they did. They reached a bankruptcy settlement last year. And since then, they've been targeting several clubhouses. One of them is the one in the Bronx, near Crotona Park, like I mentioned, which is now slated to be shut down in August. And they say they're trying to find a way to continue services at other locations. They're still investigating that. They haven't updated people or anything about it. But, this is a place that has been a safe haven for people for about 6 decades. It's really been somewhere where youth, teenagers, young kids can go after school to, as I was told, stay out of trouble, and they get involved in a lot of activities, homework.
I got a list here. They do dance and music. They have a rec room with pool tables, a computer room. I mean, this is what we need. You can't be complaining about teens doing the wrong thing if you're not giving them an opportunity to do the right thing.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of folks were telling me. Bronx elected officials were pretty pissed off, or rather deeply concerned, as they said, that they weren't really engaged about it sooner and at the potential shutdown. And one thing that's interesting to note is there is a city stipulation that the property can only be used as a community center up until June 2030. So if someone else were to pick up the tab here,
they would still have to have a community center, but for 5 years, I mean, we like to think the future of the Bronx is a little longer than that. But what I just don't understand, and the needs of the community around that part of the Bronx and many parts of the Bronx are extraordinary. And one of the solutions to it is community centers. Do we know why they selected this one? Well, look, I might want any community center to be, taken apart, but why not one on the Upper East Side? That's just I didn't say it out loud, but to close a community center that's active, that with a 60-year legacy in the Bronx, I'm trying to figure this sense out. I just don't get it. I mean, is it prejudice like I don't know. I'm just very upset about it. That's it.
No, you're asking the same questions that a lot of people who frequented and have been there and have worked there before are asking. Why this clubhouse? I asked the Madison Boys and Girls Club, and they didn't give a specific reason. They have not outlined a reason quite yet. But yeah, it's definitely riled up a few folks. And, like you said, this is a historic place. It's a place that held the whole Avenue Peace Treaty, which, right in the clubhouse, it was a
That's
safe
right.
haven. Early
A
1970s.
solution to gangs, right? I mean, that's what all that is about.
Right. There are a lot of gang members who, changed their lives,
Yeah.
spending time in the boys' club, or even when they were in gangs. That was a place where one of the few places at that time where members of rival gangs could be near
Get
each other.
together and solve their problems in a more productive way than the other ways than that gang problems get solved. I just don't understand it. And I have to tell you, I have a friend, a close friend, who grew up in that neighborhood and said, they saved my life. I mean, I don't know, have any other way to say it. And here they are, they're going to close. And so what's next? I guess legal action of some sort. I don't really know. Is that clear at this particular point?
It's not clear right now. They have, it's been put up for sale. It's listed on the market. So from there on, we're gonna see if there are any potential buyers who are interested in what potential plans that they may have for it. There is still time in the city council budgeting process, and the city council does have money earmarked to purchase property. So
Then they would purchase a G. But again, to purchase the property, but still to put programs in. I mean, I know many of the leaders of community centers in our borough, and that's not an easy thing to do. It's just I really like, what can I tell you? So thank you for reporting it, because it's obviously very, very important. Can we do something a little lighter, a little less difficult for people of the Bronx? For many years, and I've been in that neighborhood plenty, is I would walk from Kingsbridge Road down to Burnside Avenue along a place called the old Croton Aqueduct, and apparently underneath was or is an aqueduct. And I'd always known about it. You did a story that said the old Croton Aqueduct becomes the first ever scenic landmark in the Bronx. Now, I just, and this is pictures there of the people who, made the announcement, but I didn't understand landmarks in the Bronx. I mean, we've got them all over the place. What is the difference between a scenic landmark and the normal historic landmarking that, I mean, let's see, in the Bronx Opera House recently, Engine Company 88, Ladder Company 38 Firehouse, the Tremont Library branch, Samuel Gompers High School, and many other places have been landmarks, but this is the first scenic landmark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get
it. Yeah. So there aren't many. New York City has only 12 scenic landmarks, and
so it's a different type of landmark.
It's a different type of landmark. And so if it's chosen as a scenic landmark, the location has to be at least 30 years old. And according to the Landmarks Preservation Commission, have a special character or special historical or aesthetic interest or value that ties into development, heritage, cultural characteristics. And so, the Croton Aqueduct was the first direct water source, for New York City. It flowed from reservoirs in Croton, New York, on many miles towards New York City. And, it's kind of crazy to think that today people kind of just walk along this and
don't realize that it's a spot of history. As I said, I was aware of it. I mean, maybe because of what I do for a living, but now it's actually got that designation. Does this mean that there's going to be some protection for it, so that the development or other issues can't change it? I mean, do we know that?
Yeah, it's sort of anytime an area or a site is landmarked, it is something that must be taken into consideration if there's any construction or any development that is planned for that area. So in a sense, but it's also, a point of pride, and also sort of something to teach history to people in the neighborhood who might not know about, kind of just the wonderful history that they're sitting on.
Of course. There are many scenic places in the Bronx. I mean, stand on the High Bridge and take a look. I'm a big fan, as you might know, of Van Cortlandt Park. I mean, and I walk around that parade grounds, and what could be more scenic than that? You can look at the at the scenery from the virtual background that I'm using here, which is just all off Avenue, and it's just beautiful. It's nice to know. Now, let's see. I saw, and I think I picked this up from your article, Morningside Park in Harlem and the Coney Island Boardwalk in Brooklyn were the only other sites named scenic landmarks in the last quarter century, in the last 25 years. So I wonder, are they going to do more? Do you have a sense of any of that, or is this all we got?
Landmarks Preservation Commission definitely said that they're targeting more landmarks, particularly in the Bronx, and it's part of an equity framework initiative they've had since 2021 to identify more landmarks in the outer boroughs. A lot of the landmarks are, reside in Manhattan, and the LPC has made a targeted effort to highlight and identify ones in places like the Bronx. So they said this is, not the end, and they're definitely.
Well, that's good. That's good. I hope maybe there's a couple of dollars also to fix up some of that parkland that's on that strip as well. Make it a little more attractive and inviting for people. One other thing that I picked up in your article, and I had no idea, there's a place, and I didn't know that it existed. There's a place called Roscoe Brown Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. Of course, Roscoe, legendary president of Bronx Community College. Many people don't know he was involved in the founding of BronxNet television. So that was so when I saw that, I was like, oh, I appreciate that spot. Anyway, so folks in the Bronx, take a look, take a walk down the old Croton Aqueduct and enjoy yourself, and realize that you're in a place of history, which we all know about because of our buddy Jonathan Custodio, who's with the city, and we read him all the time. And keep us posted on the Madison Boys and Girls Club too, because you tell them Gary is not happy. I'm not happy. Anyway, but I am happy about you and having you as a buddy and having you as a contributor to the Bronx Buzz. Very important for the people of the Bronx. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And on Roscoe Brown, one more thing, he was a former Tuskegee Airman.
Oh, yes, of course. I was being selfish thinking about the BX, but of course, yes, he was a legendary figure even before he founded BronxNet and became the president of Bronx Community College. Anyway, thank you, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to go to the St. Anne's Corner of Harm Reduction for a special event. Don't go away.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. .55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. .34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. We thank Jonathan Custodio for joining us in our previous segment. Right now, some of my favorite people in the Bronx doing some of the most important work successfully. And so let's go downtown, down to the southern part of the Bronx in St. Anne's Corner of Harm Reduction. The Chief of Staff is Steven Hernandez. Steve, nice to see you.
Good to see you, Gary.
And Timothy Majoor, the Chief Operating Officer. Tim, nice to see you, my friend.
How's it going, Gary?
Steve, let's just start with you. Where are we at? We've got an event, a couple of events that we want to promote, but where are we at? More people in trouble than used to be? You feel like you're getting your arms around an issue? Just give us the general look of how it looks from what we call SACHR, St. Anne's Corner of Harm Reduction.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, our efforts these days are very much focused around preventing overdose and helping folks who are really just faced with, this crisis that's really plaguing the South Bronx. And compared to where we started back in 1990 with HIV/AIDS, those numbers have certainly gone down, but overdose has gone up. So we've really tried to expand our outreach, expand our mobile units, and we have some events coming up. One of which is our talent show, which we're really excited about, and is more of a wider campaign, an anti-stigma campaign to really push back and really show that, it's not only folks' substance use challenges, it's really, there's more to the person. So we're going to be having some exciting things at that event.
I'm going to throw out a couple of words here. They are human beings. And
100%.
Listen, let's be very clear. If Dwight Gooden, who was a cocaine abuser to the point that he missed, one of the biggest days of his life, the parade after the Mets won the World Series, can have his number retired, I think we could begin to show a little bit of respect for other people who have been beset by the disease of drug abuse. And Doc would be the first to tell you that he's had a problem. He looks like a former drug addict, but yet his talent shines through. So the other question I just want to ask you, Steve, and then we'll get into programs and things like that with Timothy, but fentanyl is the biggest issue out there now. But I believe that there's really a good effort to make sure that Narcan is available in schools and other things. Why don't you just talk to me about the climate out there to understand what the problem is and ways to deal with it?
Sure. Well, we're living in a world in which there's no safe supply. There's really no way of knowing what you're buying out on the street. So even that term overdose, it's really a drug poisoning because you're ingesting something you're not intending to ingest. So there's a lot of these adulterants of dubious nature, as some of our staff will say, like fentanyl, like xylazine, and ways that you can really prevent, save a life is to really get Narcan, which I have one here hanging in my office, actually.
There it is.
We always carry it with us everywhere when we're on the train. That's naloxone, Narcan, that can reverse an overdose. To nasal spray. It's a medication. We also promote testing your supply. We give out test strips here, fentanyl test strips, xylazine test strips, little harm reduction tools and practices that you can do to stay safe and to promote safety in the community.
Mm-hmm. There must be great joy when you see somebody get better. Because somebody be able to say, wow, that you guys really helped me. And that's a nice introduction for Tim. Tim, what are the programs? I know you run so many different types of programs that are, not drug treatment programs, but real programs for human beings, to use that phrase again. What are the most successful ones? What are the ones that you think really help people turn their lives around and get back to a point of health? And by the way, Steve, I loved, that you called it an illness, really, and let's back off of the overdose thing, that it's a poisoning thing. If you take too many whatever pills are in your medicines cabinet now, you could have a overdose of some sort. Anyway, Tim, let's just go back to activities as the chief operating officer there. What really works?
Our program menu has really expanded since 1990. So we started off with syringe exchange, which is still our sort of bread and butter at the agency, and we really help over 100,000 syringe utilizations and exchanges every year. But now we've really grown into a community effort. So we're doing a lot more syringe cleanup within the community through our SORT program, Syringe Outreach Response Team. So we're having our own participants and volunteers going out into the community and being essential first responders, educators, as well as disposing of all these syringes safely.
I just want to ask you about that. That's just
Please.
so fascinating. So what you do is you take somebody who's had this disease, had this problem, and then you bring them into the process of cleaning the parks. We know what's been going on down there in St.
Yeah.
Anne's Park. I mean, it's crazy. And they're in that process. So then they see the results outside of themselves and then begin to kind of come to a realization or a little more strength and say, hey, I'm cleaning up here, I can clean up here. Right? Am I getting it right?
That's a great comparison. Who better equipped to clean up our parks and our community than people who have lived that experience and who
Right.
understand where they might be and who can better relate to and communicate with maybe current users who may be still engaging in these activities or might not be connected to our program as a whole. So the syringe cleanup efforts have been really successful. Like you mentioned in the parks, we're doing a lot more park meetings and interactions with St. Mary's Park. That's our closest one. For
Yeah,
example.
I know. I realized I said St. Anne's Park, but
You're good.
I was thinking St. Mary's Park.
The Bronx has too many parks. We're the greenest.
Well, we are the borough of parks. We know that.
Exactly. But now a lot of our services are going more north with we expand our outreach with a new mobile unit. It's like a mobile bus. We're now doing more cleanups in, let's say, Echo Park and other parts of the Bronx that we might not be
Sure.
immediately next to.
Right. So you've expanded that that concept. I just want to get back to this talent show that Steve was talking about.
Yeah.
There must be something, I don't know if it's a bad form to use the word therapeutic in getting people to say, well, wait a minute, you used to be a singer before you got in the middle of this. Why don't we give you an opportunity to sing again or play the guitar or play the drums? I don't care what it is. So there must be some self-help in that. Steve is shaking his head. Tim, you answer first, and then I'll let Steve weigh in on the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our participants have had these, skills and hobbies even before they started their substance use journey.
Oh, of course.
And it's helped them through that substance use journey. And now, really, you can tell their emotion, the strength, and sort of the honesty that comes from a lot of these expressions. Whether it's singing, we do a lot of dance. In the past couple of years, we've even done skits that the participants will write out and direct themselves. With the staff and the participants acting them out. So we really shed a light on their past experiences, what's helped them through it, as well as an opportunity for more in the future.
It's so healthful. That's the word.
It's beautiful.
It's helpful for everybody. I mean, if we
Right.
got Steve up there to sing and dance, he probably would be a better person.
Yeah,
I don't know if the rest of us would enjoy it, but he would be a better person. Also, I like the idea of back to the 80s because it takes people back to where they were before maybe some of these things happen. So, Steve, where does this fit in the spectrum of care that you do at SACHR?
I think the word you used, therapeutic, was appropriate, actually. I think this talent show is a very empowering event, an empowering moment. And there's a misconception in harm reduction that harm reduction enables people. But it really doesn't. It really empowers them, and it gives them the necessary tools to navigate what they're navigating. And this talent show is such a beautiful thing. People getting up and dancing and singing and poetry. We've had people do photography shows. I mean, it's a really great opportunity to show the full person. And, people walk away feeling really good about themselves and ready for that next step, whatever that step may be.
So we'll just mention it's June 12th. You said it's not necessarily a thing for the general public. The party starts at 2 p.m. If you want more information, you can get over to the website. I'll give you a little background about my work here at BronxNet. We started Bronx Talk, my other TV show, in 1994. One of the first shows we did within a month was a needle exchange show, which we did way back where there was a van on Burnside Avenue.
Okay.
But now recently I interviewed Senator Gustavo Rivera, who talked about a bill that's out there for safe houses so that people can use safely. For people who don't understand, Steve, why don't you just explain why this is a good thing to get, a good thing in general to begin a process that may be toward health, instead of saying, hey, we somehow endorse the notion of doing this kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. You'll see the term OPC, or Overdose Prevention Center, and it's a space in which folks can come and use substances on site safely, with the help of staff, medical staff, doctors, social workers, case managers, all there in order to help link them to services, reverse an overdose if that's the case. And in many ways, overdose prevention centers really do solve a lot of issues that many folks across different spectrums have. Folks may not want to see people hanging out in the parks using substances.
So it's helpful. I don't want to run out of time, and I want to talk about the gala.
Sure.
But what it also does is gives you or other providers a chance to interact with them and
Exactly.
figure out where we're going. I see that Tim was going like this. I've been having this conversation literally for 30 years. You've been doing it for 60 years. I've been doing it for 30 years. Listen, 2,800, this was right off your website, 2,800 served, 851,000 services provided, 24,000 meals distributed. The annual Grace Awards Gala is when and where, and this is for the general public. We want everybody to join us, everybody to contribute, because you're making a better Bronx. So who's going to make the sale? Steve, Tim? Doesn't matter to me.
I'll give it to Steve. He's our resident tour guide at the agency.
All right, go ahead.
That is true. November 1st, folks, 583 Park Avenue in Manhattan. And there is a separate page on our website under the gala link that you could find out all the information and ways to support.
This really, listen, people complain. Listen, I've spent a lot of time in the South Bronx, literally stepping over people who had fallen in the street. And it's just heartbreaking, because these people have families, these people have lives, these people have talent that we now have underscored. And it's people like you and my buddy Joyce over there at the St. Anne's Corner of Harm Reduction who are just addressing it and taking care of it in very smart ways. We can't thank you enough.
Thanks for the opportunity.
There you go. Steve Hernandez, Chief of Staff. Timothy Majoor, Chief Operating Officer from St. Anne's Corner of Harm Reduction. We need you. We thank you. We love you. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it for this evening's edition of the Bronx Buzz. We thank Jonathan. We thank Steve and Tim. And you know what we always say? If the curtain don't fall, the creek don't rise. I will be back next week. Good night.